work ask for more information, and yet there isn't an obvious link back to patient safety that they can perceive or see.
Although our reporting rates compare well internationally, it's estimated we hear of only roughly 10% of all side effects. For nimesulide, the Irish Medicines Board would have known it was seeing only the tip of the iceberg. Evidence was mounting internationally too. By 1999, after deaths were linked to the drug, Turkey and Israel suspended it, and it was banned across Europe for children after 3 suspected child deaths in Portugal. Within 3 years, more shocking evidence emerged from Finland. They had more bad side effects reports with nimesulide in 4 years than they had with all other similar painkillers put together in 20. Finland swiftly removed it from the shelves and put the whole of Europe on alert about the drug's potential danger. It was from here in Finland in 2002 that the first safety review was triggered at European level, after the Finnish Medicines Agency recorded over 60 cases of liver problems associated with the drug. The Finnish Medicines Agency mounted their case, which included a death and 2 transplant cases, to the European regulator, the EMEA, to get it to withdraw the drug Europe-wide. However, this didn't happen. After a vote was taken, all countries were legally obliged to leave the drug on the market. The Finnish were dismayed about how that decision was reached. But what you seem to be suggesting is the initial assessment is made on a scientific basis, but it doesn't necessarily affect the final decision.
Yes, it can be. I don't tell that this is the real case, but it can be.
But in your opinion, in relation to this...
Yes, in this case, I believe.
So you think safety was not the most important issue here?
Yes.
Finnish experts feared that with the drug remaining on the market, there'd be more severe liver or hepatotoxic reactions. So what did you fear?
More hepatotoxic signals and transplantation cases.
Were you able to express this opinion at any official level?
No. No way. This is EU politics, nothing else.
Finland weren't the only country to present evidence of patient suffering. Here in Spain, there was also mounting fear about the liver damage the drug was doing. After 2 deaths and 27 cases of liver problems, the Spanish government took the drug off the market just months after the Finnish had done so. Negative publicity meant that the manufacturers never put the drug back on either the Finnish or Spanish markets. But the Spanish were shocked that the European regulator, by ignoring their country's experience, were now putting other patients across Europe at risk.
My fears at that moment were that so many people is going to suffer without any reason. For us, it's very clear, with data from the Spanish pharmacovigilance system, from other systems, from the World Health Organization database, from data coming from different sources, has been consistently identified a higher risk of liver injury. There is no point in having this drug in the market at the moment.
Documents discovered by Primetime reveal that as far back as 2003, 4 years before they suspended it here, the Irish Medicines Board also feared that continued use of the drug would pose a risk to patients. They agreed with the Finnish and Spanish that it had no unique benefit to justify a unique risk. This had been illustrated by a recent Italian study, which showed that although Olin was equally effective as other anti-inflammatories, it doubled your risk of liver damage. Importantly, we also had more clinically relevant cases of adverse side effects per head than Spain. However, once it was voted to keep Olin on the market, the IMB say they agreed with the decision.
And the result in 2004, which went to the Commission, we had a legally binding decision, was that the benefits of this product outweighed the risks. But there were risk minimisation procedures put in place at that time. All doctors were written to tell them the outcome of the review. The company was told that on a 6-month basis they had to submit periodic safety update reports which reviewed all the liver issues in the whole world related to this drug, which they did. And all the indications were harmonised across Europe. So with those risk minimisation procedures, we were quite happy to leave it licensed on our market at that time.
If they were happy with it, why did they sign this statement formally opposing the decision the same day it was finalised? The Irish Medicines Board say they were happy to implement the decision to keep it on the market once new risk minimising measures were introduced. They say they weren't aware of these measures when opposing the decision, even though they were referred to in the decision document. Furthermore, in internal memos seen by Primetime, the Irish Medicines Board months earlier had decided that nimesulide was clearly hepatotoxic and that any proposals to limit it are unlikely to be feasible. Despite nearly 300 cases of adverse liver reactions across 10 European countries, due to the European vote, it remained on the market, with renewed warnings to doctors about its usage. More hospitals now stopped using it, like St James's and later the Mater in Dublin. However, GPs say they weren't adequately put on alert.
The doctors and nurses you've talked to are not keeping themselves up to date. And that would quite concern me, because I wrote to them via our drug safety newsletter in 1999, 2002, 2003, 2004. They got a personal letter in 2004 to tell them of the outcome of the European-wide review. So I cannot appreciate how any doctor out there did not know that there was a risk of liver reactions with this product. Every doctor that is registered with the Medical Council would have got our newsletter. So on 4 occasions, minimum, and in our monthly MIMS article, we warned that the hepatic reactions were occurring with this and to be careful.
Although the IMB views these ways of warning doctors as effective, doctors don't seem to take much notice of them.
They underestimate how general practice actually works. You can easily miss the notification of many of these sort of concerns that are being raised. And many of the concerns as they're being raised are often downplayed. In other words, it's not red flagged the way it should be red flagged.
They may have thought they were putting out the message, but the message wasn't getting across. It wasn't coming across effectively to general practitioners. And that's demonstrated by the prescribing information. Again, if they'd linked up the prescribing information and the warnings, they should have expected a fall in prescriptions and a decrease in duration of prescriptions. If that wasn't happening, that should have signalled to the IMB that their warning wasn't adequate or wasn't being responded to in the expected way.
In fact, the General Medical Services figures clearly show that sales were increasing and that larger amounts were being prescribed even after the warnings. This was observed by pharmacists as well.
From my practice records, it would seem that about 2/3 of the prescriptions and the dispensings were for long-term usage. Certainly, it would seem that the best evidence from the IMB and the EMEA wasn't being acted on in practice.
Since that European decision in 2003 and the lack of awareness of the dangers by GPs, 4 more Irish people would die, 5 would have liver transplants, and others, like Breda Thomas from Cork, would come close to losing their lives.
I went to the doctor with neuralgic pain that started in my hand and leaded up my shoulder and down into my back. So the doctor prescribed nimesulide, anti-inflammatory, which worked for a while.
In 2005, Breda, a mother of 2, became progressively ill after being prescribed nimesulide, but it wasn't clear for some time what was really wrong with her.
Well, the first doctor thought it was a winter vomiting bug, or that it might be hepatitis, and that, he sent me home. And then within 2 days, the jaundice was much, much worse. I was really yellow. So when I went to another doctor straight away, she didn't question anything. She just said you have to be hospitalised.
The hospital doctors identified a serious problem with her liver, but were unsure initially as to its cause.
The doctor said there was fatty tissue on my liver, which meant that I had to have ingested something. I questioned whether it could have been water that I had drank, whether it could have been other things, and they ruled everything out because they couldn't explain it. They thought that it was viral.
Long after Breda was discharged from hospital, she was still feeling the effects of her condition. She needed regular blood tests at the hospital and became convinced that it was the drug which had made her sick in the first place. She read about Joan Flavin's death from the drug in the newspaper, and her suspicions were eventually confirmed.
On my last visit, I had read the article about Mrs. Flavin who had died, which alerted me and shocked me, and I questioned that with the consultant.